Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on June 5th, 2023 at approximately 4:30 p.m. BST. Now, I have returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. Now, I bill myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life. And the philosophies of life I talk about are the ones I personally guide my life by. Now, before I get into anything, let's start off on the first part. I was supposed to be on yesterday, but due to family obligations and the fact I overextended myself to an extreme amount, as in way too much heat, net result, I ended up sleeping quite literally for 9.5 hours yesterday. Not a normal thing. I can't recall the last time I did that. Actually, I can. That would be December 28th of 2018 when I had a nice little stroke. Definitely slept a long time that day. That being said, who do we got here? Should really get this up and running so I can see. Let's bring up the other sheet so I can actually read what's being written. All right. Bring that up so I can see what you guys are seeing. And there we have it. Now we shut down the vocals on this one. Good, they're already shut down. Okay. Right off the bat, we have iVoices in with the gold. Nightmare. Hey, thank you so much there, Nightmare. I do appreciate it. Nightmare is in with the silver. Football Cat has shown up with the bronze, and Shadow and Sun have shown up with honorable mention. In addition, no, not in addition, and that is where we're standing for the moment, but this is a good thing. Now, I'm going to give it a little bit. I do have a challenge for all of you, myself included, that I will be dropping in your laps before the end of this particular stream. Not waiting for another couple of days or anything like that. This is a question of getting things moving properly. So a topic came up the other day about while I was actually on Spaced Out Radio. Okay, somebody asked if the human race was doomed. And the reality of it is no. But we do have a whole lot of change that has to take place. 9.5 hours are rookie numbers. I don't like, I figure thank you, Shadow. The way I see it, I sleep usually an average of 4 to 5 hours a night. Okay, so basically, I got like 2 days of sleeping in one shot. Not real great from my standpoint. Now, I was looking for something here. That's it. Okay, and Shadow, well, you start off with this. This is where everything got started, as it were. This is the link to Spaced Out Radio. I've been on this now, as many of you know, and the first Friday of every month for the last roughly 8 years. Now, Shadow, where are you? Shadow is in the house here. So, guys, when you get a chance, do everyone a favor. Drop in and give him a listen. If you like what he's talking about, absolutely give him a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. He's got some really neat insights. And one of these days, I will manage to get onto his show again. It just sort of depends on how my schedule goes. But as you've noticed, trying to figure out when my schedule is going to go sideways is a little tricky, especially when you realize that it's my youngest son's graduation coming up, which means the next couple of weeks, well, as I've told you before, family is first. Okay, now sometimes family is bloodline. Okay, sometimes it's who you're born into a family with. Sometimes it's simply because these are the people you choose to have around you. And as I heard it put on a show one day, okay, essentially when I come here, this here is my current family. Now, this does not change my bloodline family. Okay, and let's face it, some of you have bloodline family members you don't deal with. I'm in the same boat. Now, down to business. Is the human race doomed? The answer is 100% no. If it stays on its current path, we're in for a heck of a sour ride. There is no question there. Okay. Let us see here. Let me go live chat so I don't miss anything here. I have no idea why this keeps shifting back, but that's okay. Now, is the world going to end? Like, is the civilization going to collapse the next year or two? No. But it is time that we start really pushing the idea of making this a better world for virtually everybody. Yes, there are those of you that are not going to like that idea. Those of you that think that, you make more money because you're more valuable than the next. Well, let me paint a neat little picture for you. Nathan, how we doing? Glad you could join us. Yeah, I kind of figured you'd be listening from work. But, people, this is the Link to Nathan show. Really neat ideas on it. And here we go. So, drop by, give him a listen. If you like what he has to say, absolutely give him a thumbs up. I'm presuming iVoices that you're referring to Chernobyl. Now, you're more than welcome to Nathan. Now, is Chernobyl real? The answer is yes. Very real. Okay. But here's the kicker. Okay, are we doomed? No. However, here's the thing. And this is a picture I was going to paint for you. Now, most people, when you look at a restaurant, you go, okay, the most important person is the head chef. Okay, if it's a restaurant that doesn't have a head chef, then what it boils down to is you got the head cook. And this is what people seem to be promoting as the most important person in the kitchen. But let me paint a neat little picture to you for you. Now, I spent 24 years working in hospitality. Okay, then I got grumpy. No, actually, then I got fed up with picking myself up off the floor with a collapsed knee. But you go to a restaurant, whether it is fast food, whether it's a fine dining, whether it's family restaurant, doesn't matter. If the cook screws up the order, quite often, if you've got a talented waitress, she can smooth things over and make the meal enjoyable. If the waitress screws up the service, quite often the quality of the food will balance things out. And you'll still have an enjoyable meal or an enjoyable time out. But here's the lowest of the low. Okay. So many people look at the dishwasher. In some restaurants, they call it a houseman, which is what they called me, amongst other things, but the rest aren't exactly repeatable, at least not in polite company. The dishwasher is, in my opinion, an absolutely invaluable member of the staff. Because here's the kicker. If the dishwasher does not get the pots pan cleaned in the right order, or does not have the dishes properly cleaned, it doesn't matter how good the service or how good the meal is a write-off. Because if the dishes or the tables become, if the dishes are dirty, you're going to have problems. Okay. If the restaurant is not clean, and this goes as a hands off to the cleaners. If the restaurant is not clean, you're not going to be content with the meal. It won't matter how good the service or how good the food. That's the whole thing. Okay. Oh, okay. I appreciate you clarifying that, my voices. Now, let's see. My voice is going, no, Yldrbac is not Chernobyl. It's supposed to be an evil god in the Slavic culture. Okay. Now, I've not heard the name before, but let us understand something about gods. Okay. If you see a god as evil or an individual as evil, the odds are what's happening is they're not doing things the same way that you would like them doing. Okay, but understand the people that worship Satan see him as a great god. Actually, in all fairness, unbeknownst to most of them, they see her as a great god or great goddess. But do evil gods exist? Evil being qualified as self-serving. The answer is absolutely they do. Just like evil people, evil millionaires, evil billionaires, or conversely, the real nice ones, the real benevolent ones. Okay. So, I mean, we have to take a look at the reality of all of this and go, yes, there are good people, there are bad people. And the reality is, and let's see if I've got one right there. I think I've got it right here. I'm about to find out. Nope, right there. Now, I keep really weird things handy on occasion. This isn't actually that weird, but watch this. Now, if you're like I am Caucasian, you go into the heart of the Congo with one of these funny little things. Okay, I'm sure you recognize it. It's a Bic lighter. Okay, now if I go into the Congolesian jungle and I don't manage to get myself lost, okay, and I take this lighter and I conceal it in my hand, and all I do is go hocus pocus. I'm a god. Okay, all this is a standard Bic lighter, but I'm at this point a god. Now, that said, that fire can be used to either cook meals, warm your hearth, or burn down a building. Okay, the fire itself is not the problem, it's the person behind it. The god themselves is not the problem. Okay, it's what you do and blame them for or give them credit for. Okay, if we are to turn this world around, it is time we really start getting excited about our own life. Okay, and about the things we have at our disposal that we can take and turn this world into a better world for virtually everybody. Now, here's a challenge for you. Okay, and this is for each and every one of you. Now, granted, I'm giving you one day less. Okay, where is my pen here? Move that out of the way. Yeah, that's it. Shut the pen and then try writing with it. So here's the challenge for you. And this is a real big problem, okay? Like this ought to be this gives you a lot of wide open doors. Okay. Find one thing about your life that you are not content with. Okay. Just one. Okay. Doesn't matter what it is. One thing. Maybe it's that your dishes aren't completely done up. Maybe it's as simple as your bed is not made in the morning. Okay. Pick one goal that is completable by you alone. Okay, not with the assistance of anybody else. Okay. Now, that task that you pick, whatever it is, because we're starting small. Okay. Whatever that task is, okay, write it down. You don't have to tell me or anybody else. This is for your benefit, not for mine. Okay. In my case, I'm going to tell you what it is because I'm also going to be tracking it through the week. Now, the one goal and pick one that you can complete by the time I come back on the air on Saturday afternoon. Assuming, of course, I managed to pull off Saturday afternoon. Okay. Or not Saturday, rather. Sunday afternoon. Okay. So when I come back on after gaming while we're under the banner of an open topic, and that one goal, whatever it is you pick, and hopefully you'll pick it before the end of this show. I'm not holding my breath on that. In my case, oh, this is fantastic, Shadow. Shadow's just saying I already knocked off a bunch of stuff off my New Year's list. Which I'll get back to that. I mean, that's fantastic. I put a list together. I've been racking off things myself. But before the end of this week, I just finished putting the final touches on Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. That book, my challenge for me is to get the ISBN number for it. And like I'm doing two things, because one I'll be doing in about 15 seconds. But much more importantly, to get the copyright information, if at all possible, at least make the phone call to get the information to copyright the books. Now, this is something I'll be working on this week because, well, frankly, it's got to be done somewhere. Okay, but it's time for me to start making things happen. Now, what do we got? No, in all fairness, Shadow, it really doesn't. The reality is, if we're going to turn this, when Shadow's just made the comment, now you want to make it longer? Sheesh, it never ends, does it? No. The only time that your task list will come to a close is when you drop dead and stay that way. Rest assured, I've dropped dead often enough on a temporary basis. I know it doesn't end with dying. They keep sending me back. Of course, I keep telling people, you simply put, God doesn't want me and Satan's afraid I'll take over. So I just carry on doing what I have to. Now, what I'm looking at here is if we can get these, like right now, we've got 7 people in the chat room. Okay, 7 really, really open-hearted people that I know are very supportive of everybody in there. Okay, now I'll put it a little loosely because I'm betting that you're all supportive. I've seen the way the chat room goes. But we've got to get a few things straightened around in order to put this world back on proper track. Number 1, the blame has got to stop now. Not next week, not next month, not in 10 minutes, but right now. I keep telling them the same thing. I made the mistake there, Shadow. One of my goals when I was just a little lad was to get off this backwoods mud ball. It worked. Problem was I didn't tell them not to bring me back. Now, by each of us changing those little things that we're not content with, we can absolutely turn this world around. Let's run off a couple of things that we're told are coming. Major land shortages, major famine. There's war coming. There's famine coming. We're all going to die and go to hell and burn in the eternal fires forever. I'm telling you, the hot tubs are way too hot. But football, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Quite honestly, football, the answer to that is yes. And the reason for that, let me put it this way. I grew up in a home where I do not recall, and I know this sounds like science fiction as well, I do not recall my mom and dad ever fighting. I'm sure they had their disagreements, but they ended up, as far as I recall, never fighting. They had split things down the middle in a beautiful fashion. Now, understand, I grew up in a home, 5 brothers, one adopted sister, two foster sisters. My dad was assigned to the superintendent of Sunday schools in the Comox Valley. My mom and dad both were block parents. So we always had, and of course, we also ran a beach canteen down at the Air Force Beach, and delivered the bulk Vancouver Sun. So I mean, I came from a very big, very nicely tied family. Now, this does not mean that my siblings and I always saw eye to eye. Quite the contrary. But mom and dad did not turn around, and they did not blame each other. They never pointed the finger. And mom never once, that I recall, said, "You wait till dad gets home and he'll deal with this." Oh, no. No. If you screwed up on mom's watch, she was at the front of the line. That's just the way it is. And to this day, and I always held and told my boys that when they went to move out, if you ever need to come home, there will always be a place for you. I may not always have a bed, but there will always be a place. Okay. Net result, my eldest son is now moved back in with me. But we've got to stop pointing the finger. Yeah, and Shadow's just going, crud, my whole strategy relies on blaming someone else. And then he goes, seriously, if I screw up, I'm harder on myself than anyone else could be. I'm in the exact same boat. And I have a tendency of taking on things I shouldn't, but what the heck. But we've got to get away from this idea that the government is screwing everything up. The elites are all responsible for the world being in the state it's in. The religions are the leading cause of dissension, or aliens are running the world. And there's a number of other ways. Oh, my neighbor did this to me. I was sitting in a bar one day, and I heard this guy that I kid you not, he was big enough. I kid you not. I suspect he would have had to buy 2 airplane tickets to ride on an aircraft, to get a flight, because he'd have to have 2 seats. But the girl he was with, the girl sitting at the table with him, would have fit in one of his pant legs. And I kid you not, this guy is yelling at her, "You drove me to drink. It's your fault I'm drinking." Me being the subtle individual I am, I just looked at the guy and I went, "Excuse me, but do you really mean to tell me that little woman there has been holding you down and pouring alcohol into your mouth?" Right? And he goes, "Well, no, that would be stupid." I said, "So he's trying to tell everybody in this bar that that they are responsible she is responsible for your drinking." I mean, granted, and I looked at her, I said, "No disrespect intended." And I looked back at him, I say, "She may be the most annoying person you've ever met. She may be frustrating as all get out to deal with. But you're still the one that is actually picking up the drink and pouring it into your own face." Now, why I didn't get hit, I don't know. This is just the reality behind that. And I know I'm not subtle. I know I'm not soft spoken, and I can be abrasive to a lot of people. Okay, this is why I tell people I make everybody happy. Some of you by showing up, most of you by getting up and leaving. Okay. Michelle's going, but lizard people. I'll tell you, I've met a lot of reptilians on a lot of different species, a lot of different races. Okay, we call them reptilian because they look like Terran reptiles. But I will tell you, almost without exception, they are very true to their word. They are very direct in their approach. Okay, and they do actually, some of them are far more gentle than you would expect. Okay, absolutely, some of them are absolute doorknobs. Okay, but like, for instance, we take the Tormenon. Okay. Now, Shadow, you don't have to kill to get somebody to pour alcohol down your throat. You just have to pay them for it. There are people that will do that for you. But, when we take a look at the Tormenon, they'll tell you to your face, you give me the appropriate money, I'll do whatever you ask. And rest assured, that's a pretty unlimited list. But we've got to look in the mirror and go, okay, you made a choice. It may not have been a bright choice, but it was a choice you made. Okay, if you're drinking too much, you may well, and the thing we have to remember about alcohol is alcohol becomes a physical addiction. So much as you may desire to quit, it would not be a shock to find out that some of you require assistance. Okay, and I'll tell you, this is where some of these dry out tanks come in handy, because they don't have an emotional investment in it aside from you want to get sober and you're willing to pay me for it. Okay, but they don't have that problem of their heartstrings being pulled because of the pain you're going through as withdrawal kicks in. However, is it worth the pain? In my opinion, and I never went that route, in my opinion, the answer is yes. I know my brother, my second oldest brother, he told me when he ended up in the hospital, the only reason he quit drinking was because he couldn't convince the nurses or the doctors to go and buy him any drugs or alcohol. But after months and months of withdrawal, he no longer had the urge to drink or do drugs for that matter. Okay, give yourself a pat on the back there, Shadow. Shadow's just saying he hasn't had a drink in 13 years. I quit drinking in February of '87. Okay, so it's been a few more for me. Yeah, Nathan, that's like me. I'm down to 2 or 3 ounces a year, as compared to 26 minimum a night. But none of you guys, I'm absolutely certain of this. Well, in all fairness, Nathan, vodka itself actually is a beautiful painkiller. No, it works as a topical anesthetic with a whole lot better flavor than some things. But we've got to start looking in the mirror and going, okay, this is the way my life is. Whose responsibility is it? Is it somebody else's, or is it the guy in the mirror or the girl in the mirror? The thing is the world changing before our very eyes? You bet. But it is up to each and every one of us to determine if that is for the better or for the worse. And I'm warning you, if you keep pointing the finger at the government or at the elites and saying it's all their fault, or reptilians are running the world, they're guiding everything. You keep pointing the finger away from the person in the mirror. Okay, your choice. Whatever is being broadcast on the news, it's up to you to decide whether you're going to act on it or whether you're going to go, no, I'm not buying into that. Yes, Shadow, it very definitely is. And the thing I'm hoping to do, and this is being a little selfish on my part, I've been looking at this rather seriously ever since the people on Spaced Out Radio started pushing for me to actually go live. Okay, I started off going, okay, let's give it a shot and we'll see what we can do. Now, with that in mind, where am I here? Cannot see my desktop for the love of money. Mind you, if I move the stuff out of the way, I can actually see what I'm looking for. Put that over there. Okay. This stuff will all get cleared out of the way. I'm just clearing my desk off so I can actually see what I'm working on. But we have to take a look at the world. Okay. Absolutely, Nathan. And I've listened. Let's face it, I've been on your show. Sorry, I missed the invitation the other night. But well, frankly, I think that was Saturday. I slept through 3/4 of the day. Well, no, about half the day. But Matt Geek, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So let me ask you this, guys, because I do require your assistance or desire it anyway. Get this stuff out of the way so I can see what I'm working with. What I'm doing is clearing my works and my tabletop. What the heck do they call that? Calendar. Okay. Now I have right now. Well, we're here right now. What I don't have is a list of topics for the next week. Raven, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully your day has been good. Now, we've got to start looking in the mirror and going, okay, what do I desire to accomplish in a positive fashion? Okay. Very, very necessary. Okay. Now, in my case, like I said, about 3 weeks ago, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, I mentioned I was going to get a book, Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams, written. It is written. It has been fully edited. Tomorrow I'll be going down and talking to my printer because she's the one designing my okay, let's try English. She's the one designing the cover work for it. Okay, by then, before I go down to talk to her or right after, but tomorrow I will also be getting the ISBN number for it, and I will be making a phone call to Copyright Canada this week. Boy, that came out really well. Now, the nice thing about this is if we all put our minds together and we put our effort to the task, we can actually change this world for the better. Okay, at least for most people. Now, if you're one of these people that figures you deserve to be paid more than everybody else, you're more than welcome to it. Okay, I'm not the one to tell you what your belief structure should be. All I'm here to encourage people to do is treat those you deal with the same way you desire to be treated. Okay, 3 karmic laws. These are the only laws I personally follow. But if you compare these 3 to any law you know of and or follow, you'll find I do believe that they all fit inside. Be true to yourself first, meaning if you believe in something, stand your ground on it, but be aware. Okay, I will give that to you in just 10 seconds, Raven. Be aware that the way you treat people is the way you're encouraging others to treat you. Okay, this is why I say, be true to yourself first. If you feel that you're doing something that you're and that you like, the caution is this: if you can stand up and proudly announce to people around you, and there will be exceptions, that I did this. Like, for instance, I can stand up, except I'm lazy, so I'm not going to. I could stand up and go, I finished writing another book, the 8th one that I've gotten out of my name. Okay, it's done. Now it'll get put to print. As soon as it's available, I will let you know, but that's got to wait until it actually comes to print. Now, with that in mind, we have to take a look at the reality of things. Okay. Now, Raven, the answer to your question: find one goal that you have total control over whether it gets done. Doesn't matter what it is. One goal to complete before I come on the air on Sunday afternoon. And if I don't make it on Sunday afternoon, which is possible with my family, then it'll be the first time after that. But pick one goal that you've got dominant control over that you're going to complete before Sunday rolls around. Now, you'll notice I've made that wide open. Okay, Joe, I'm just looking at this. What do we got here? Glad you're listening in there. Not a problem there, Joe. But Joe has suggested that the next show, which will, by the way, if all goes well, tomorrow, the next show topic, really strange scam emails. Absolutely. So I am writing that down right now there, Joe. I'll tell you, you come up with some fantastic topics. So I have now written that in. If things what'll happen if I end up missing a show from here on out is I will simply bump the shows down the road. Okay? Because sometimes, in case you hadn't noticed, things got a little screwy. Nina, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Now, like I told people, I am going to keep people posted from here on out because I've got a list of tasks that can get really extensive. But for me, the important one that I'm looking at for by Sunday of this coming week is to get my ISBN number and a phone call into Copyright Canada to start the copyright procedures to actually get the paperwork in place. Because as soon as I've got them both, I will be putting Believe in Your Finances and Follow Your Dreams. I will be putting it to print. Okay, at which point it'll be available. Yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things. To be honest with you there, Shadow, to give you an idea, if you're dry, first and foremost, it would be really strongly recommended to take the term lose out of your vocabulary where it comes to weight. Change that off, and it's a mindset thing. Change that word to I desire to drop X amount of weight, or I choose to drop. Okay. The reason being, when it's a psychological thing, when you say I'm going to lose weight, most people are geared to naturally turn around and go, to naturally go and look for whatever they lost. The problem with weight is it seems to come back with company. Eternity, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Presumably your day has been, to say the least, a little hectic. But on average, what I found out is comfortably, okay, without doing anything major, except potentially cutting back a little on what you eat, or more to the point, eating more functionally. Okay, if you're dropping more, in my opinion, and I am no nutritionist. Okay, as was pointed out to me, I don't pay much attention to what I eat at all. But if you drop a pound to a pound and a half a week, because remember, it did not take you a day and a half to gain 20 pounds. At least I hope not. Okay, now some of you out there will have complications with adrenal problems or thyroid problems, but on average, on the whole, simply contrary to popular modern medicine, simply cutting back on the amount of calories you're putting into your body and increasing the amount you burn will cause you to drop weight. Ozzy, glad you could join us. Hope your day is going well. What, you mean you didn't, Shadow? See, I didn't lose my mind. I just gave it all away. I actually found one of my marbles running around on the floor here the other day. I'll tell you, I found it the hard way, but exactly the point there, Ozzy. If you're losing a kilo a week, that's 2.5 pounds. Well, 2.212, if I recall correctly. But, with that in mind, okay, if you're losing that kind of weight, your skin will not keep up. And I'll tell you, much as overweight does look, in my opinion, is not as appealing Now, do understand when I say it's not as appealing as somebody in really good shape? This does not mean I have anything wrong. I have nothing against people that are overweight. Okay. From a relationship standpoint, I definitely prefer a more slender body. And that being said, I used to weigh 246 and I decided that wasn't going to work. I am now down, I'm now down to 190. As of this morning, I was down to 194.4. Okay. Emmy, glad you could join us. You know, um, 20 pounds in 5 days. Yeah. Yeah, somehow, Shadow, I don't think setting up camp at McDonald's is going to help. Not with the quality of food you got there. And I got nothing against McDonald's food. For me, it was great when I was living at the bar. But I found if you draw, because it takes you a while to build weight. So what I found is if you cut back, if you end up dropping a pound to a pound and a half a week, that's 4 to 6 pounds a month. This means in order to drop, in order to drop 50 pounds, you're looking at close to a year's effort. It is not a short run. And the one thing I will tell you about everything I talk about on this stream, I'm not about to give you this song and dance about, oh, it's easy. Just quit drinking. You can do it like that. Wrong. Not going to happen that way. Oh, Joe, all kidding aside, I think you got the beer drinking down to a fine art, at least from what you've been saying. But yes, beer, beer is a problem. It helps really good if you're aiming to gain weight. I do not like the hiccups, they hurt. But nice. Yeah, in all fairness, I think it's been at least that long for me. This is true, and this is true, Ozzy. And I will tell you, and if you go back through my older videos, okay, you can find them somewhere back there, but you look for one titled language. Okay, the word want and the word need, when referring to things you desire to have, are counterproductive because they set up the energy for a lack of. In other words, if you want to have something, you're setting the energy up for the want of that item. So from my standpoint, it boils down to this. I do desire this stream to go a lot bigger. Now, I originally looked at it and went, okay, I've been asked all of this information, so it's time to start putting it together. Okay, well, as you can see, things have gone down a slightly different road. Okay, it's not just about the off-worlders anymore. But I will tell you, some of the off-worlders and worlders I've dealt with are absolutely spot-on beautiful people. Okay, really nice personalities. Little odd in their tastes and what have you, but so do a lot of humans. Okay, but when we pick a goal, when we pick a goal for ourselves, one that catches us here, because everything starts with a thought up here, then it gets to your mind, and it either gets to your mind first or your heart first. But the catch to it is this: when that feeling that you desire something gets to your heart and you have that pull, that is when your head will kick into gear and figure out how to make it happen. Because it doesn't seem to matter. You go to a doctor and the doctor says you got to lose weight or you're going to suffer problems. The doctor can tell you this all he wants, but unless it hits you here in the heart, and I don't mean your physical heart, but unless it gets your attention here, the odds are you're going to have a lot of trouble motivating yourself. Okay, this is why on this, what do I got here? On this list I'm working on right now. And again, guys, like I said, the challenge is real simple. Pick one thing that you're not content with. Okay, just one. maybe you've had a falling out with a family member or with a friend. Maybe, and it's just a circumstantial thing. I'm not talking about major betrayal. I'm not talking necessarily about, oh, my best friend cheated on me. My best friend cheated with my husband. I'm not talking about that kind of falling out. And that is an excellent place to start there, Joe. Whenever you're dealing with alcohol of any form, okay, start by eliminating the easy things. And the reason I say the easy ones is if and I'm just gonna pick on you for an hour, more to the point, use you as an example. Hope you don't mind there, Joe. But because I had the same problem. I used to drink whatever crossed my table. Didn't matter whether it was hard liquor, beer, or a shooter or liqueur. It didn't matter. Somebody put it in front of me, I would drink it. And the one thing I would never do is leave a glass. I would never leave a glass unfinished. Really bad combination. But I did have a better bar at home than most of the bars I was visiting. Oh, speaking of bars, I had an antique set of bottle tops for rye, vodka, that sort of thing. I had an antique set, but I gave up drinking, okay, years ago, and my eldest son has given up drinking. And it's not that he was drinking heavily, but let's face it, he's 25. But he's decided alcohol is not the road he's going down. I found a home with people that are both bartenders and appreciate drink, where this antique set of bottle stoppers has now gone. Okay, which I'm absolutely certain my father would have been really happy with, because it was his set. But I ended up with it after he passed away, so there it went. Now, when we take a look at it, you pick one thing that you're not content with, and make a change to it. Doesn't have to be a big change. Okay. Now, what do I got here? That one I dealt with. The editor that I do pay for my editor, by the way. It's a very simple issue. Work gets done. There's an old rule. An honest day's pay for an honest day's work. So we got the book finished. It's paid for. Now it's just a question of getting it dealt with. Now, I've got a bunch of little things that might go on my list that I've got to get to. Most of them will have to wait till tomorrow now. So I'm going to start adding to them here. But I'm going to pose this one for you again. We've got a topic for tomorrow, which is scan the odd scam emails. Okay. But with that in mind, okay, if you guys have a suggestion for a topic for Wednesday, Friday, or Saturday, doesn't matter. Okay. If you got a suggestion for a topic that you would like to open the door to, absolutely if you put in the chat, we will make sure we get things in the best order we can. As in, when I see them, they go on. Because I finally figured out how to make this work properly. I write them down now. If I miss a day, I just bounce everything back one. So that it will be literally a question of the topics that are coming up are the ones we deal with. Now, here's the thing. And this can go out, and the reason I have no problem saying this is because, number one, I am a firm believer that we have to have a government. We have to have some sort of spiritual guidance. And there will be people that have more money than you. There will be people that have less money than you. Okay. It's time that we look to these people as a focal point for inspiration, if you will. And you're likely sitting there going, how can you look at a politician and go, there's a form of it, and there's somebody to be inspired by? Let me ask you this. Is there a politician out there that is actually active that stands up, like that falls under the category of politician, that does not get out in front of people and speak their mind. Not are they being honest, but do they speak their mind? And yes, I realize some of you will look at it and go, I've seen politicians out there that I don't think they have a mind. And I'm sort of of the same opinion in a lot of cases. But you got to give them credit. They do come to a conclusion. This is what they're going to stand for. And then they go out and do it. Okay. I am currently working to build this stream. And of course, this means figuring out how to market it. And as I've been told, visibility is the real catch to it. Now, why not, Raven? I mean, heck, I've been known to put my foot in my mouth quite regularly. The one thing I will tell you is I never did figure out how to be politically correct. Okay, but absolutely, Raven, if you've got something you'd like to add, absolutely do. Oh, well, I've got you in there in the chat room there. That's your show, The Rabbit Hole. That's 7 p.m. Pacific time, is it not? That we're supposed to go on the 21st. Because I wrote down, because I think I wrote down 7. Yeah, so it should be 7 p.m. But it's time we really look in the mirror and go, okay, how do we desire to change this world? Okay, talking to a politician is one of those kind of necessary things, but here's the thing you don't necessarily realize. Every individual you've ever met is a politician. Every person out there, myself included, okay, has an agenda, has something they are aiming for. Now, this is wonderful. Raven goes, our current president doesn't have a mind left to actually speak his mind. Can't even read a teleprompter. That is unfortunate, but we also have to remember, and correct me if I'm wrong there, Raven, you're down in the States. Hey, Adam, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Boy, that's a long haul. Glad you're the one doing the driving, not me, but remember, it's absolutely imperative that you pay more attention to driving than you do to what I'm saying. Okay. Kimberly, how you doing? Glad you could join us. The thing is, we have to realize that what we got. Hey, human data, how you doing? To be honest with you, I don't recall seeing you in here, so welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. Human data is just saying the human ego is a tough essence to understand. Nothing gained in a sense of better human if driven by envy. Well, actually, it says any, but that's okay. The thing is this, okay? Everybody can strive to be better. And there you go, Emmy. We have here Emmy's going. She's got a lot of respect for Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana. He tells it like it is. And this is the thing we have to look at. Okay. When you're speaking, absolutely be true to you first. If you believe it, absolutely speak it, but be aware what you say may not agree, other people may not agree with. Okay. This doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's a different point of view. Okay. Now, I've run into a few politicians that were absolutely dead on the money, that were absolutely spot on with their honesty. Okay. But politicians are necessary. Laws are necessary. But what we have to enforce, what we have to encourage, is for people to realize that the amount of money you've got does not have any bearing on whether the law should be followed. Because if a law is written, okay, and I will tell you this wholeheartedly, I broke some, absolutely. So I'm not perfect. I believe the saying centuries ago was, "Let he who has not sinned cast the first stone." I'm telling you, I've done some things I'm not proud of. No, I'm not going to turn around and start airing that on live air, or in private for that matter. But we have to encourage people on all levels to accept the fact that the amount of money in your pocketbook or the number of letters after your name does not make you a better person than the next one in line. Okay, now, my goal, for me personally, my goal is real simple. Okay, I am aiming to bring, first and foremost, I'm looking at taking this stream and turning it into something that when people come on here, they, number one, feel supported as much as possible throughout the members in the chat room. Okay, and come away from it feeling like they've got something they can do to better their own life. Now, am I going to hand out tricks that will make your life easy like that? Not a prayer. Okay, if you're going to change your life, it's going to take work. Okay, and I'm living proof that it can be done. I'm living proof of a lot of things that shouldn't have been done. But that's the one thing I'm looking at. Right now, my short-term goal is to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2023. Now, whether I'll make it or not, I don't know. Okay, here we are at the beginning of June, and we are over halfway there. I'm looking at right now, we're sitting at 512 subscribers. Now, the good news from my end is this. I got 512 subscribers, but I know that there's a lot more people that listen periodically, and that's the message I'm striving to get out here. Is as long as we can put out a positive message and get people to do things in effect to help each other. Okay, we target the little things first. Okay, here's an obvious little one. Yes, I'm going to pick on smokers directly. Okay, when I'm not the one to tell you whether smoking is a good thing or a bad thing. The only thing I will tell you about smoking being a bad thing is if you've already got trouble with your lungs, smoking and putting smoke into your lungs does not seem like a functionally intelligent move. But it's also one of the hardest things to break. Okay, from what I've been able to gather, and I never did start smoking, from what I've been able to gather, smoking is harder to quit than drinking is. Okay, now, with that in mind, we've got to encourage people to look in the mirror, to look in the mirror and go, it's time to take responsibility for our actions. Okay, like, I mean, I take a look at at the stuff behind me, and it's up to me to keep it sorted. Okay, where did it go? And needless to say, it doesn't always work that way. See, it's kind of like this. My son came home, right, when he moved back in, he hands me this neat little box. No, it's not. It's not little grad wraps. It's a whole pile of little markers. So I keep those handy, and we'll go through them and throw them out as we find out they're dead. But that's where this drawer comes in. Because then I just stuff these in here. I'm just wondering, this is something I've got control over. Okay. I can go, I'm happy with it, or I can go, I'm not. Hey, look at that. See, this is one of those things about getting organized, sort of. I take a look at this and go, this is stuff that I can do to eliminate the clutter in my own life. Same thing applies to you guys. Okay. If you've got something that isn't running as smoothly as you'd like, then it's time to start changing it. And yeah, I went sideways on that for a second, but that's okay. Look. So here we've got drawers. There we are. All kinds of felt pens I'll be able to use all over the place. But that being said, that goes into recycling. But like I said, it's absolutely imperative. Whoa. What I was getting at, by the way, where it comes to the smokers is this. And these are the only people that do it. Okay, you're driving down the road. How many of you have either done this, and I don't expect an answer on that. You've driving down the road, you've got an ashtray right there in your car, and you've got a cigarette lit up, and you come down to the end of the cigarette, and you're out the window. Okay, this has got to be one of the densest maneuvers anybody can pull off. And, non-smokers don't do it because obviously non-smokers don't have a cigarette to throw out the window. Okay. And I've heard people go, well, I don't want to put it in my ashtray because, well, it'll make my car dirty. Okay. And then you see people driving down the road in the middle of a drought, firing a hot cigarette out the window, and then wondering why we have forest fires. I don't know. I don't find it hard to put two and two together. But this is where it is absolutely imperative you take responsibility for your own actions. You take responsibility. Don't go turning around. And I hear it all the time. It's the elites that are causing the problem. I'll tell you, here's a neat little fact. Okay. Yeah. Adam goes, I use an ashtray, but I also drive a giant billboard. Yeah, no doubt. You're driving a 40-foot rig, or no? I think you drive B trains on occasion, do you not? Like two 40-footers hauled back to back. I talked about that a while ago, but that was one of those things that I really did think about doing for a living. But when we take a look at this issue of, rewind. Here is oh, there you go. Oh, you got the real big rigs. Now, here's the neat thing, Adam. Okay. Just going to show you something here. As long as I don't break my leg doing it. This one you'll get a kick out of. Well, maybe. This is why this literally it came about because of my interest in long haul trucking. Okay. This gentleman here. Okay, that's Jeremiah Woolstrand out of the Yldrbac Chronicles. He was a long haul truck driver before the world collapsed. Okay, and I've got a whole bunch of trucks lined up that work together in a group called inside this series called the Bully Brigade. Bunch of truckers doing exactly what truckers do, haul stuff from one end to the other. But when we take a look at it, I've heard people go, oh, I can't put a cigarette out the window because, because of the fact that I don't want my car to be dirty. So we'll burn down the neighborhood instead. Yeah. Joe goes, I smoke a pipe occasionally. You puff on that. Well, more often than not. Do not inhale. Yeah, and there is kind of a intrinsic sophistication to smoking a pipe. Myself, I never started that either. Okay. In all fairness, I never even got into smoking a bong. Cliff, how you doing? That's terrible. you know, Cliff here just wrote in. How many preps does a prepper prep if a prepper preps? Say that 3 times fast. Now, I'm not entirely certain what all the letters and what have you are that you've just typed in there, Cliff. But here's a brass tacks truth of inflation. Okay, we desire the world to change. If we desire inflation to cut down, if you run a business, okay, if you run a business, all you do from your standpoint, do your best not to raise prices any more than you have to. And in all fairness, you don't have to. Okay. Glad somebody recognized what that was. Thank you there so much for that, human data. I appreciate that. You know, the reality of it is if you desire inflation to stop, and the government could do this like that, he could literally, the government, whatever country, could stop inflation cold. And we've seen them do it in small pockets. Okay. All you have to do to bring inflation to a 0 point, to zero inflation, is freeze wages and prices across the board. You do that, and all of a sudden, you've got zero inflation. It's that simple. The reality of it from that standpoint is people keep going, I want more money and I want to do less work. This is what is causing inflation to climb. And the problem is the people that have millions of dollars won't notice it. Okay. The people that are borderline on the border of not having enough to eat are the ones that get hurt. Okay. So if you're trying to, if you look at the inflation side of it, all that would have to happen is we have to simply turn around, and this is just food for thought. Okay, you desire the economy to get back on track. You freeze taxes and you freeze prices immediately. The one that'll cause the biggest problem is instead of going, if you make $100,000, you get a tax break. Okay, those are not the people that require a tax break, in my opinion. Okay, the ones that require the tax break. Okay. Oh, nice, Adam. Well done. Congratulations. Sad to say that the cost of gas has gone up a lot further than that. That's intriguing, Cliff. A human data just mentioned. Okay. Human data just mentioned the issue of not posting links, and yet since then you posted at least two, which I'm not entirely certain why, but the sad part about it is I don't like having to go in and do that. But if I have to, I will. See, the only links that I tend to post here are ones of people that are active members for the most part, that are active members. Okay, that confuses me, but I'm not putting any more work on that. The only links I tend to put on are the ones that I turn around and, like, for instance, Spaced Out Radio. Dave doesn't tend to come on here. Okay, but that's because Dave is absolutely busier than heck, and he is also he is also where I started pushing and where I really got pushed into coming onto a live stream, or more to the point, encouraged to come onto a live stream. The other channels that I pop up here are active members in the chat room, and a lot of the time I usually end up waiting until they come in before I pop a link, primarily because I usually forget. You know, the nice part about it, when we take and that's how you deal with inflation. Now, the other thing we gotta realize is that when we're looking at tax, okay. Oh, I realize that, Nathan. You've got one of the best reasons for not being active, but you do make a point of coming in and saying, "Hey, I'm here." Okay, but that being said, this is why I take people that are in here that have a channel. I've got a list of people that are in here. I'm missing a few, not the least of which Raven, and I don't know if this is my fault. It's probably, well, it is. You posted it before. If you'll be kind enough to do so again, I will actually copy it straight from the chat room instead of trying to remember where it is, because I've got my sheet open for the list. I've got a couple of channels in here that I don't put in very often. I do once in a while. Oh, absolutely there, Nathan. I mean, I get it. I really appreciate the fact that even though you're working, you take a couple minutes out to say, "Hey, I'm here. I'm listening. I'm a little busy, so I won't be active in the chat room." And I know there's people that pop into the chat room and hide, and they'll sit in the background, which is necessary. People cannot be here 24/7. I certainly don't expect you to be. I mean, heck, I have trouble being here sometimes, in case you hadn't noticed. I tried the idea of going, I'll be on at this time all the time. Problem is, life gets in the way for me. Like yesterday was just absolutely ridiculous. I got done with helping my son. Jimmy, how you doing? Jimmy Casino is popped in. I gotta ask Jimmy, do you actually own a casino or you just like to gamble on occasion? I know driving is a gamble on occasion, but no, yesterday I was helping my son with a school project and was outside for way too long and the heat just wiped me out. Net result, whereas I was supposed to be on air from 4:30 to 6:30, I didn't actually wake up until about 9:30. Net result, I was up until about 3, I think. But it's a weird life I run. But when we take a look, like I said, when we take a look at tax, and this is really out to the people that are controlling what the tax rate is and the tax laws. Okay. Very, very necessary. You know, that it's very necessary to, in my opinion, to take the tax and go, okay, unless you're making enough money to actually meet all of your living expenses. And I'm just talking about your accommodation, your utilities, a little bit for entertainment, your food, not necessarily in that order, and your insurance. Okay. Those people, until they've got that kind of an income, they, in my opinion, should not be taxed, period. Okay. See here, now Human Data has and pointed out. He goes, the little pirates users that only read the chat and listen, but don't ever enter and mingle. Here's the thing: some people are inherently shy. Okay, and yeah, I realize it's a chat room, but rest assured, being internally shy does not necessarily make the chat room easy. Okay, yeah, as my hope is that the people that are listening, and I do appreciate the perspective there, Human Data, but in my way of looking at it, for those of you that are listening, as long as you are getting something out of it, okay, and are turning around and implementing at least some of the tools that we're talking about in order to better your own life, or perhaps better somebody else's. Okay, this is the important thing in this message. Okay, we have billions of people listening to people online telling you how the world is going to be a shambles. Inside the next 5 years, we're all going to die of whatever. Okay. This is something that we have to really take a look at it and go, I'm not interested in, it's not that I'm not interested in the problems the world has, far from it. But when we focus on the positive things that are happening, okay, that is when the world starts to shift. Okay. I remember one day a while back, a number of months back now, somebody came into the room, you know, oh, bonus. I get lost traveling. I just thought I'd ask. I mean, the name is catchy. You know, it's almost tempting to figure out how to work that in. But, you know, from my standpoint, I don't travel a whole lot. That said, I was talking to Dave earlier about next year's Spaced Out Radio Party. Okay. Now, I don't know exactly where it's going to be, but what I do know is I am doing my best to put the money aside to make an appearance. This year went sideways. I ended up unemployed. Okay. Well, I do my best, but thank you so much for that, human data. Now, when we look at society on the whole, society is not controlled by the elite. It's certainly guided by the most vocal. In other words, I can sit back and I can watch the world collapse and I can note the things that are wrong. But if I don't stand up and say something without going, oh, we got to overthrow the government, this has got to be one of the stupidest things people talk about. Overthrowing a government does not change the problem. Read Animal Farm by George Orwell, I believe it was. I believe we had that discussion just the other day. Actually, I think in the States, Animal Farm um it has been was I'm trying to remember the word for it. It's been essentially made illegal to read it. Well, not illegal. Um, I hate when I pull a blank on words. There we go. Thank you so much for football. It's been banned. Now, why it's been banned, I can only surmise, is because it tells you a real simple picture of what happens with a governmental overthrow. It doesn't change the way the world is because the people that are dealing with it are still the same. Hey Shadow, how we doing? Glad you could rejoin us. I'm presuming, yeah, it should be tonight, is it not, that you've got a show to do? Oh no, that's not right. I know you're all over the place there. Oh, I did not. I don't know if I put that in earlier, but just in case I didn't, I'm gonna give Shadow another link here. I'm gonna pop his link up again. Because, quite frankly, I've got a good memory. It's just excessively short on occasion. Oh, there we go. Yeah, Shadow goes, no, I'm off on Mondays. Well, you gotta take at least one day. Myself, I write Thursday off. Simply because I end up gaming not way too much. I enjoy it. You know, but I look at it this way. When we're looking at people to follow, okay, there are billions, literally billions of people that will sit in front of a computer or sit on a pew and somebody else says, oh, our world's going to end. We're all going to burn in hell. We're going to have massive shortages of food, great swaths of war. These are things that, yes, they are happening. Okay. Sandra, how you doing? Glad you could join us. They are things that do happen and do happen, and it is recommended they are reported. But do we have to have them on the front page? Not a snowball's prayer. Okay, they don't have to be headline news. Okay, I would rather see Bob and John Smith got married last weekend. It was a heck of a gala and they had a lot of fun. Okay, this is front page news to my way of thinking. And this is why I am turning around. This is why I'm turning around and pushing the idea of the positive side of it. Because anybody can talk about how bad the world is, but unless I stand up and start doing something and say, look, we've got to look at the positive things, we've got to focus. And this is why that ratio. If you're going to read something negative, make a point of reading two things that are positive. If you're going to post something negative, make a point of posting two things that are positive. This bends the weight in the favor of the positive side. The funny part there, Human Data, is you're absolutely right. Human Data has just said social media sells fear. Negativity, yeah, and Shadow's going negativity sells, plain and simple. But here's the silly part. It's the common people that are buying into, they are reposting the fear. They are buying into the negativity and reposting that. Okay, Cliff, what have we done here? Okay, Cliff, either you've got it, and I'm only going to give you one, I'm going to give you one shot here. You're either going to have to take this link and rename it, okay, or I'm just going to simply block the input. And I hate going that road. Okay, but I've been, you've been asked, you've been explained why, and yet, so I don't know, maybe this is what you've got tied into your name. Okay, but if that's the case, okay, number one, absolutely, you best be letting me know. If not, if it's not tied into your name, then it's got to be removed. Sagittarius, how are you doing? Glad you could join us. Hopefully things are going well. I do my best to stay on very much the positive side. Now, here's the thing. Where it comes to the social media side, okay, well, this is unfortunate. I really hate having to do this one. But this is unfortunately the reality of what I've had to do. Okay, that is unfortunate. That's the first time I've ever had to do that. Well, yeah, football, what I just did, and I don't know if this is the right way to do it, because I'm still learning this side of it. Okay, but what I did was I did hide it. Okay, now that being said, I don't know how to go about blocking it at this point, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that. Okay, but when I first was looking at social media, until social media hit, I'd hear people saying that newspapers were putting out negative information. You know, they'd say they were putting out negative information because that's what the people wanted. And I kept looking at it going, that cannot be right. The social and the mainline media had to be doing it for their own purposes. Okay, until social media came out. I appreciate the confirmation there, Human Data. You know, I thought when social media first came out, all of a sudden I'm seeing the massive majority of posts and reposts being negative, being who got who killed who shot who embarrassed who. Oh, here's pictures nobody wants you to see. These people don't want you to see, so let's post those. That's when it dawned on me the problem was not was not the main media. It was the people themselves. And now I'm not pointing fingers at any individual. Okay. I'm just saying that the general population is what has been pushing for. Let's see how badly we can embarrass people. Let's see how badly we can make people feel about themselves. Okay. In my case, I will tell you, I literally do not, in my eyes, I don't go to anytime I see a headline that says, oh, these are the most embarrassing sports films, or these are major wardrobe fails on the red carpet. I don't even click the link. Okay. Because in my eyes, those are pictures that if they were of me, I wouldn't desire them on the media. So why would I post it for somebody else? Ultimately, Sagittarius, we really are. It looks, I mean, it sounds bad, but unfortunately, people keep pushing for overthrowing governments or overthrowing a company. Now, here's the thing. I fell into the same category for years. I'd go a couple of years and I'd up my prices where it came to consulting. I'd bring my prices up. And then just before COVID hit, okay, I was watching people claim that, oh, we were suffering from major inflation. So I did everything against the norm. Okay. I had my prices raised for consulting, whether it was personal or business. I had my prices set at $180 an hour. Now understand, I've got 40 years of experience under my belt. So yes, I do know what I'm talking about. I've got well over 100,000 clients. But about a year before the lockdown happened, okay, I turned around, looked at, and went, "No, I don't need to do this anymore." And I cut my charge from 180 an hour down to 90 an hour. And I drew a line on it and went, $90. If I take it longer than an hour, that's my call. I won't turn around and go, "Oh, we went an hour and a half, so let's turn around and charge you a little more." Okay. But I turned around and went, "No, I'm going to cut my cost because the people that really required assistance could not, they could not afford $180 an hour." I don't know about you, but 180 is a pretty good chunk of food. Okay. And it usually pays off at least one of my utilities. But every one of the tools I talk about that I offer people, whether it's here or whether it's in person, okay, every one of them are tools that either I personally use or I've got enough clients that I've dealt with, I've handed the tools to, that I know they work. Okay. Like when I take a look at this, okay, not exactly a bestseller, but that's the backbone of how I turned my life around. Okay, right there. Huge book. You really want to read a lot? If you want to read 400 pages, well, that's no problem. This book is, I think, 22. Just gotta find out because I want to give you the right answer. This particular book, 19. Yep. This book is 22 pages long. Okay. Absolutely huge. Not yet. Sagittarius, the reality of it is, in case you hadn't noticed, I stumble over my own words. Okay. One day I will find somebody that can translate this into an audiobook. You know, now the neat little part about it with this, if you want to read a 400-page book, read this one. Oh, I don't know, 20 pages. So you're looking at 5. Well, read the book 25 times. There's 400 pages for you. Not entirely certain necessary, but what the heck. I would love to get them onto audio. Myself reading them, I have on occasion read, and I could quite conceivably take these books and read them, on air one day and stumble over them left, right, and center. Okay. But, when I take a look at that one's small, but I write in 5 different genres: self-help, science fiction, science fantasy, depending on who you talk to, children's, reference, and poetry. Okay. And I've got the poetry book, I haven't got a conglomeration of together yet, but it's one of those things I've got to work to. You know, the nice part about it, when I look at it, is this: if we turn around and start focusing on the positive interaction with people, like, I mean, I did something really bizarre the last time I flew. Okay. I came off the plane, the flight had gone really well, and I was ahead of schedule. I was in no hurry to get home. There wasn't a problem at home, but I had time to kill. So I stood in line at the baggage check. And if you know anything about travel, the people on baggage check get the brunt of the pain in the neck. If there's anything wrong, they hear about it. So I had a couple of minutes. The lineup was about 4 or 5 deep at baggage check. Now understand, I came home with one bag over my shoulder. Okay. And I waited in baggage check and I got in the lineup and I get to the front and the woman is clearly really haggard. She's had a rough day. So I stopped. I waited for her and I get up to the front and she looks at me and she goes, "How can I help you, sir?" I says, "Not a problem at all. I just stopped to say, hey, look, I had a fabulous flight. All my bags showed up on time. I showed up where they were supposed to. Had great service on the plane. Just wanted you to know, because by the look of it, you're having a bad day. So I figured I'd give you some bad news, some different news." She looks at me and she goes, "No, seriously, how can I help you?" I said, "No, that really is all I stopped for." Right. Because from my way of thinking, she was having a rough enough time. She didn't need another complaint. What she required was somebody to give her a pat on the back and say, hey, well done. The world is not an absolute shambles. And rest assured, I became a recluse. I stay away from people because I have enough troubles with it. This, on the other hand, I have no problem with. Of course, this one, on the other hand, I don't get people looking at me cross-eyed and going, oh, you're just completely freaking weird. Well, maybe you do, and I just don't know it. And that's okay. But what I'm aiming for at this point is to build things to the point, and I'd love to see it and talk about a dream for 10 years down the road. I would love to see 1 million people listening and acting upon at least some of what we talk about. Okay, because there are incredible people out there, some mind-bogglingly nice people with very creative minds that are just being completely overlooked. Okay, I mean, I take a look at some of what Shadow and Son do, and some of their creative work is just absolutely bizarre. Oh yeah, well that's just it, Shadow. If I could speak without actually stumbling over my own words, putting that on audio isn't a bad idea. I just have to figure out, like I said, I'm looking into the copyright side and getting it all done, and I just have to find somebody that can read it without tripping over it. Okay. Or figure out how to do it myself. But the reality of it is, do I speak clearly a lot? Obviously not. Okay. Am I embarrassed by the fact I don't speak clearly? No. It's just the way it is. But will I eventually get them onto audio? Yeah, that is one of the things I'm looking at. And again, once I do that and can figure out, I actually know somebody that can help me with the copyright side of that. So I will be going down that road. These are just some of the things I'm working on with my company, with Inner Voice Enterprises, is to get some of these books done. But I've tried going through the professionals, the ones that say, oh, we'll market it for you. Cost me thousands of dollars with no return. Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that was a waste of money. Well, not really. I did learn that the so-called professionals that claim to do it are more interested in getting paid than they are in doing their job. doing what they claim is their job. I am looking at expanding my company into a solid publishing company where you won't have that problem. H.P. Lovecraft was a phenomenal author, from what I gather. My brother swore by him. Okay, and rest assured, my brother did not swear. It was really weird. In a time when virtually everybody speaks in four-letter words, my brother refused. Mind you, he could insult you without even blinking, and you'd never know you were being insulted. But no, there are some phenomenal authors out there, and by no means, yeah, Shadow's going. My favorite is Roger Zelazny. Now, neither one of these do I technically or do I read. My personal favorite happens to be J.R.R. Tolkien, although I did enjoy Piers Anthony and Anne McCaffrey. Now, the reality of it is, I do not expect to ever get to the point of being that well known. I'd love to. I'd love my books to sell and to fire off the shelf so that I could make my living strictly on the books. But rest assured, even as that starts to take place, I will turn around. I will keep working with this because there are a lot of people that, number one, there's a lot of people that do not know how to read. Okay. There's a lot of people that don't know how to read. I have told my other half that I am going to learn to read. I am going to learn to read Braille, but I'll end up learning to read Braille by sight because I don't have the sense of touch in my fingers to separate the dots. Okay, and I've tried to develop that, but thus far, no effect. Yeah, the first, as a matter of fact, where is it? I'm looking for a particular book. Where did the one I'm looking for go? Not there. I'm looking for a book that is actually not readily visible here, and I don't know why. And now it's going to annoy me until I figure out what I did with it. But the first book I ever read that I found I did not desire to put down was The Hobbit. Okay, that's what, all of these figures up here hanging up are all figures of, from The Lord of the Rings and from The Hobbit. But when I look at this, here we are. Adam's going, I like Ken Follett. He's got some great semi-historical fiction novels. And that's one area, that's one of those areas I don't write in. Yeah, I write in science fiction or science fantasy, depending on who you talk to. Not in fiction. But, let's face it, I don't write in every topic. I also don't write adult entertainment. But we have to look at what we can get accomplished. Now, that said, I just finished telling you, I just finished off believe in your finances and follow your dreams. I've already got believe in yourself and believe in your business. And I'm now going to tie off writing. The next one of that series I'm going to be working on is believe in your career. And rest assured, there is a very big difference between a business and a career. Okay. So I will be putting that one together as well. And I've got a number of others already online. I've already got in the works. But I look at it this way. If we continue looking at the negative, we continue reposting the things as in so-and-so got robbed, so-and-so got murdered. Okay, don't get me wrong. It can be misconstrued as negative when you say, oh, there's been an accident on I-4, and it's backed up traffic for X amount of distance. It's the issue of the backup that becomes the relative point. The accident is unfortunate, but the thing that people do need to know is what the traffic lines are doing. Okay, because I don't know about you, but it kind of is handy knowing where, for both the person traveling and the emergency response teams. If a warning of a traffic problem can be set off to ensure that we don't end up with excess traffic in the area. If there's an alternative way to get around it. But we've got to start looking at what is being done of a positive nature, what we can do of a positive nature. Okay. And the best way to make a lot of these changes, and before anybody goes there, no, I tried that once, not going there. The best way of making the positive changes is, if you're that way inclined, get into the political arena, run for office, and get your name put out there, and then start making it happen. In my case, I'm just looking at making it happen before I go there, because frankly, I don't have the tolerance for the shenanigans I see taking place. And yes, by the way, I was actually a member of a park society here, and went into I was on the board of directors for 4 years. And finally went, no, there's too much corruption here, and I'm not having any functional effect. So I'm just going to walk away. And I did. The reason for it was there was literally an illegal vote that happened. Well, it's a thought, but I don't lie that well. There was an illegal vote that took place. The net result ended up with the park in question being sold. Okay. Now, I will tell you this. From a public speaking standpoint, one thing is for absolute certain. Okay. I won't lie to make somebody feel better unless you directly ask me to lie to make you feel better. At which point I will go, okay, I'm going to lie to make you feel better. Rattle, rattle. Now, just bear in mind, that was all hogwash. That was all a complete fabrication. Okay. I remember a guy came up to me one day and he offered me, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time. He turns around and he says, if I give you $1,000, will you tell somebody this? I looked at the guy and I knew he was asking me to lie about it. I looked at him and I said, well, I'll take the $1,000. He says, you'll tell the person? I said, no, I'll take the $1,000 though. He says, well, if you're not going to pass the message, why would I give you $1,000? I said, maybe you're a nice guy and just looking to help me. For some weird reason, he didn't turn around and give me the $1,000. Sagittarius, that's the thing. That is something my older brother used to do. He actually read the entire Webster dictionary cover to cover. Okay, and I think at the time it took him about 3 weeks to do it. In the Webster dictionary, and this is back in the 70s, my brother found 8 mistakes in the dictionary. Now, I mean, I've heard of boring reading. I myself read a 4-volume encyclopedia of medical encyclopedia, cover to cover. Okay. I don't write them. I don't read a lot. Periodically, I'll do so. Yeah, you too, eh? Except mine didn't end with the national anthem. We have 3 TV channels and 1 low, so technically we had 4. You had the big 3, ABC, NBC, and CBC. And then we had a local news channel. And that was it. And my dad had a remote control. It was great. He'd look at one of us kids and go, could you change the channel for me? Fortunately, he didn't like swapping through channels much. But no, from my standpoint, I figured working in an actual political field didn't work well, because the way I look at the world seems to be so far out of sync with the way the majority of people talk about looking at the world. But I'm finding here that people are looking for something beyond, let's see how much damage we can do. Let's see who we can rip off. Okay, I've got no interest in ripping people off. Okay, it just doesn't. It holds no value to me. Okay, nor do I have any interest in embarrassing anybody. The one thing I do caution you: don't talk to me about what is a good fashion statement. I remember being in a lineup at a grocery store one day, and a guy started giving me a bad time about my attire, and it was basically what you see. He was dressed in a business suit and what have you. I looked at him and I says, "It's not like I'm a fashion statement." Well, I kid you not. The young lass behind me pipes up and she goes, "You are so not a good one, but you are a statement." You know, from my standpoint, it really boils down to this: is our world doomed to come to a close? Is civilization going to end like we've been warned, like we've been told? No, it is not doomed unless we stay on the path we're currently on. At which point, I don't call that being doomed. I call that choosing to go down a really dark path. But that is a choice the individual can make. Okay. It's like anything else. While Adam's driving his stuff around the world, around the country, he could choose to make a left hand turn where there is no left hand turn available and drive straight into a ditch. It's really a bad idea, but he could choose to do that. Okay. And this is why I say when I issued the challenge earlier today, okay, at the beginning of the show, pick one thing about your life that you have dominant control over. Okay. And make that happen. Complete that task. And maybe it's only a 15-minute task. It doesn't matter. I'm talking about something that you feel you can do. Okay. Make that happen before, by the time I come back online next weekend. Okay, I'll be online throughout the week, don't get me wrong. And I am going to be talking to you about some of the things I'm dealing with. Like I went through my database on my other computer today, and I've wiped out most of the excess files. Yeah, I thought you might. There was a guy on the island years ago there, Adam. A guy driving in, and it was just a standard box. Right, it was a 40-foot box, and he was going down the island highway, and there's a little pullout on the edge of the highway they call a bay. Well, the tide was high, and you saw this guy in a truck. He had driven into the bay, all right. He was up to the window, to the bottom of the window in his cab, in the water. And we're looking at it going, well, he did do it, he did drive into the bay. Not sure that was a good idea. Okay, but from my way of looking at it, it's very simple. We have to get excited about our own life, about the changes we can make in our own life. And this is why I'm encouraging you to pick one job, just one, okay, and have that completed before I come back online on Sunday, okay, on next Sunday. And then we'll talk about who managed to accomplish what. Okay. And rest assured, whether it is simply getting the dishes done or or you're doing a rebuild on an engine, okay, doesn't matter. The important factor is whether you pick a goal and you accomplish it. Okay. That's the real key to success here. Okay. I mean, there's a lot that can be done, there's a lot that can be avoided. But it's up to you to decide whether or not you're going to continue down the road you're on, or are you going to get up and start making things change? Now, I'm hoping, from my standpoint, I'm really hoping that I can serve as some sort of a beacon to guide people from whatever path, whatever life you're living, to something that you see as a better life. Okay. Am I going to start talking about how bad the world is, how many politicians are crooked, how many global corporations are ripping people off? You don't need me to do that. There are several hundred magazines, newspapers, news broadcasts, podcasts. There's several hundred of these telling you how miserable the world is. But I'm telling you, we're right now we've got 12 people in the room. Okay. Lord knows how many people are listening. I am curious, but I will check that later. But the reality of it is this. We've got people in this room that are all definitively, from what I can gather, interested in helping make this world better. Now, you're not the only people, you're just the only ones that are visible. Okay, and I know there are some people in the background listening. They've got other things to do. And unlike myself, when I get doing this, I stay pretty much in front of the camera for a couple hours. Okay, that's about as far as it goes. Oh, absolutely, Nathan. And I'm glad you brought that up. Definitely there are extra planar listeners. There are off-worlders all over the place that are listening. Okay. And rest assured, it's not just my channel. I mean, people talk about Big Brother watching you, usually referring to the government. You would not believe the amount of people off-world that are actually watching what's going on. Or for that matter, the number of ancient races that are watching what's going on. Okay. But the important factor that I look at is this. Okay. Whatever you're planning on doing, whatever you're thinking about doing, be sure to think things through first. If you will be able to stand up and proudly say, I did this, then absolutely do it. But if you're going to have to hide what you did, with the simple exception of gifts that you're trying to get for people for a surprise party or something, if you're going to have to hide what you're doing, it would be advisable not to do it. Okay, this is just a recommendation on my part. If I figure I'm not going to be able to tell somebody I did it, and yes, I made my mistakes when I was younger. I still make mistakes now. Okay, but the reality of it is this. If you can stand up and say, I did this, that's a good idea. That's a good bet that it's not a bad idea to do it. But if you're going to have to hide what you did for fear of being arrested or for fear of being shot, might be an idea not to do it. Okay. And rest assured, for those of you that have guns, okay, one thing you'll never hear me tell people is that the categorical gun laws are a good thing. I will tell you some of the laws that they've come out with make sense. Like, for instance, who really needs a pistol or an automatic weapon to go hunting? Okay. Nobody goes hunting with a pistol or with an automatic weapon. Some shotguns they do go hunting with, but nobody hunts with a scattergun. Okay, or with an auto-loading shotgun. So whether or not they say, oh, we want to have these licensed, you got to remember though, guns when they're licensed, okay, the only people that license them are the ones that aren't going to use them for criminal activity anyway. Okay, which seems counterproductive when you think the gun isn't the problem. The people are the problem. It's kind of like vehicles. I mean, I drive a vehicle that I think is close to a ton. Okay, that makes it a motorized weapon. Now, of course, with Adam hauling I think he said 53 footers. With him hauling the big B train, what I grew up knowing as a B train. He's dealing with a massive weapon. But what you guys as drivers have to realize is that rig that Adam and people like him are driving will not stop on a dime unless it's in somebody else's pocket. Okay, so cutting them off is just plain suicidal. Okay, now on the flip side of that, I have seen a number of truckers that will tailgate the people in front of them. And I don't care what kind of a rush they're in or what kind of business they've got. That is something that, in my opinion, the person should have their license pulled, not suspended, but pulled. And yes, I know it's their livelihood, and you have no idea how much I respect those drivers because they are the backbone of what moves stuff around both of our countries. Okay. Adam goes, maximum weight for me is 63.5 kilograms, making it about, if I recall the calculation correctly, about 140,000 pounds. Okay, now that's not going to stop in the same speed. If we're going the same speed, my vehicle is going to stop a whole lot faster than his is. And if I pull in front of him and I lock the brakes, I'm asking to get killed because he's not stopping before he goes way past me. With a little bit of luck, he'll get over the first bump and won't dump his own vehicle. You know, but it's very much a question. That I agree with, Adam. I absolutely agree with you there. Okay, people's lives, and I mean all people's lives. And bear in mind, I remember hitting a squirrel, a groundhog one day. I think it was a groundhog, might have been a squirrel. I hit it, I was doing just over 120. I nearly put my car in the ditch. Okay, of course I didn't see him coming at all. Yeah, Nathan's going, when I see a trucker wanting over, I'll clear the lane and let him over. Absolutely. And the best run I ever saw, that I ever participated in, we were coming out of Ontario, heading into Manitoba. And we had I think we had something we had what? 4 semis, a tour bus, and 14 individual passenger cars. Okay, all going through a whiteout. Going downhill, the passenger cars would open up and let the semis hop, skip, leapfrog down the hill. When we went to go up a hill, the semis would open up and the cars would leapfrog. We got into the middle of nowhere, and there was this little hole in the wall restaurant. All of us pulled into the lane at the same time, into the truck stop at the same time. Just this little hole in the wall diner, right? It was just absolutely phenomenal. No, unfortunately, the sad part there, Adam, is people are not, they're taught the rules of the road, theoretically, but they're not taught courtesy on the road, which is sadly a very big problem. And that applies to all drivers, not just. I've seen passengers, or I've seen passenger cars, motorcycles, truckers, the big industrial rigs, all drive poorly. I'm not a perfect driver, don't get me wrong, but I am a firm believer that I'd like to survive the trip, so I do my best. Emmy, you are more than accurate on that. Guns aren't necessary to off people. People can do it with just about anything. And no, we're not going to get into the different options. Okay. The reality of it is, it does not take a lot of effort to hurt people. It takes a staggering amount of effort on occasion to encourage people, which is what I would like to see happen here. What I had to do tonight, not happy. Okay, myself, I'm not happy. Okay, and that is about this issue of having to hide Cliff's name, because I'm not about to let that kind of behavior continue. It goes completely against my idea of going, guys, govern yourselves. In here, I've seen you guys turn around. Somebody will come in with a problem, and I see 3 or 4 different people go, here's a way to solve the problem. Nothing to do with me. Okay, but that's what this is about. Okay. Then that is what this stream is about. Getting people to turn around and help each other. We do that, and society can be turned back onto a positive bent. Now, with that in mind, if you like the stream, do give us a thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel, and please share the daylights out of it. Tomorrow, we will be back talking about, as requested, some of the scam emails that are out there and how to deal with them. Okay, or at least how I found to deal with them or others. In the meantime, we're hitting the 2-hour mark here, so I'm going to call it a night. Thank you so much for joining me, guys. I really appreciate you sharing your time with me, and I will see you again in the very near future. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.